Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video we are going to look at quadratic functions questions that come in math paper 1. So in doing so, we are going to solve questions for 2017 as well as for 2018. So let's get started. Okay, so this is our question on quadratic functions that came in 2017. So there's part A and part B, as you can see clearly here. So part A. So with part A, we have a function y 1 minus 2x 1 plus x minus 2, and then they are saying you find the values. So want to find x values, if y is -2. Okay, so that's what our first question says. So it's very clear. The function is y is equals to 1 minus 2x 1 plus x minus 2. Then they are saying if y is equal to -2, what will be the values of x? So we simply substitute. Where there is y, you replace the -2. So we are saying -2 is equals to 1 minus 2x 1 plus x minus 2. So what you should know is that what is in the brackets here, these are already factors, so don't start multiplying. Don't tamper with these expressions that are in the brackets. These are factors of some functions that has already been simplified. Okay, so you just simply take the -2 to the other side, which is outside the brackets. So we're going to have -2. Since it's negative, when it crosses the equal sign, it will become positive, it will be +2. So we have 1 minus 2x, then we have 1 plus x. So when we have exact two numbers that have different signs, the answer is always 0. So here we're going to have 0, 1 minus 2x, 1 plus x. There's no difference when an expression is written like this or when we begin with the factors like this. This is just one and the same thing. So these are factors. For you to find the values of x, you need to equate these factors to 0. So it will be 1 minus 2x equals 0, and then 1 plus x equals to 0. So you need to find the values of x. Okay, so if we start with this one, this is direct. It's x is equals, because to find x, it means it needs to be on one side of this expression alone. So you take the 1 to the other side. So since 1 has no sign in front of it, meaning it's positive, when you take it this side, it will become negative. So one value of x is the -1, but there is another here that you've not yet found. So we are trying to make also x the subject in this expression. So we're going to say -2x is equal to, we'll take the 1. So the sign of the number should be in front of it or before it, not after. This negative is for the 2. The 1, since it doesn't have a sign, the sign should for the 1 should be before it. So since there's no sign, it means the sign there is positive. When you cross the equal sign to come this side, it will be negative. And then what's the next step? -2x is equals to -1. What we want to do here now is to separate -2 and x. The only problem here is that we cannot take the -2 to the other side because there is no sign in between what we want to separate. We want to separate -2 and x. There's no sign in between, so you can't take the -2 to the other side the way we did here, because we were able to take the 1 to the other side because there was a sign in between the 1 and the 2x that we wanted to separate. So in this case where there is no sign in between, the only way we can separate is not by taking to the other side but by dividing both the sides. So the -2 and the -2 they will cancel, then we'll remain with x. Then the negative and the negative there, they will cancel, so you're going to remain with 1 over 2. So this is a second solution. So this is how it was supposed to be solved. So this is the solution for part A of the 2017 question on quadratic functions. So let's look at the solution for part B. Okay, so for part B we have a sketch. Okay, so for part B what we were given is a sketch, and then what we are going to do is we're going to sketch it just roughly. So for B we're going to say we have a sketch that we are given for part B, and then we have y, x, we have the sketch like this, we have part A, we have O, and then part question 1 now says we find the coordinates of the points where the curve cuts the x-axis. Now remember in the question here for part B there's a function that we have been given. The function that we have been given is y is equals to x minus 2. This function is already given in the question on part B. So this actually means that's the function for this curve that is here. So they want you to find the point where this curve cuts the x-axis. This is the x-axis. So always when they are asking you to find the values of x where a curve cuts the x-axis, they mean where the value of y for the curve equals to 0. Find the values of x. So we are going to interpret it to say cutting the x-axis actually means if y equals 0. So where there is y, you replace 0, and then you are going to have x minus 2. So you cannot start multiplying and simplifying. You still come to this point. This is already simplified for us. The function has already been simplified. So these are factors. You simply equate. So like I said, writing this in mathematics is the same as writing x minus 2 equals 0. So these factors, there are two. There's this one outside the brackets and in the bracket. There are two factors. You equate them to 0. So x is equals to 0 and the x minus 2 equals to 0 as well. So the x equals to 0, that's the first solution. And then x, when take it this side to be equal to positive 2. Remember, our question is not saying you find so our question is simply saying you find the coordinates of the points where the curve cuts the x-axis. So if the question was saying find the x coordinates where the curve cuts the x-axis, our answers would have been this direct. Now since it's saying coordinates, it means at each point as you can see, this curve is cutting the x-axis at this point and at this point. If they wanted the x coordinates at where it cuts the x-axis, the answers would have been 0 and 2. But now since they are saying coordinates, not x coordinates, but coordinates, it means you need to provide the values of y at these same points. So it will be point O and at point A. So at point O, the coordinates now will be the x value. Remember, coordinates are written as x comma y. So even at point A, we are going to need the x comma y. So for point O, the x value you have found, it's 0. You can even see the curve is passing through the Cartesian plane at the origin. At the origin, the value of x is 0, isn't it? And we even know that at the origin or any point on the x-axis, the values of y are always 0. So even y here will be 0. At the origin, both x and y are 0. So the coordinates there are 0, 0. But at A, for x we need to have a number, but for y it will be 0 because at any point on the x-axis, y value is always 0. So at A, we have already found the value of x that it's 2. So meaning the y is 0. The reason is simple. The point is on the x coordinates, on the x Cartesian on the x-axis. So the coordinates, the value of y for the coordinates will always be 0. So these are the coordinates for where the curve cuts the x-axis. So that was the solution for part B1. Then part B2, the question is asking us to find what is the maximum value of the function. Okay, so what is the maximum value of the function? Okay, so now what this question simply means, as you can see, the question, this is the question. Okay, so this is the question. So in short, this question is simply asking you to find at the value of y for the turning point. Okay, so for this curve, what's the highest value here where it's turning? In short, maximum or minimum always means the value of y for the turning point. The question is, how do we find it? So the simple way is simply by adding the x coordinates that you've found, or in short, where the curve is cutting the x-axis, you add the two coordinates and divide by 2, you'll find the value of x for the turning point. So the values we found was 2 was 0 and 2 was x values where the curve was cutting the x-axis. We add these and divide by 2 to find the value of x for the turning point. So 0 plus 2 will get 2 over 2. The divide by 2 is always, we always divide by 2. Whether if we had 5 and 10 or 19 and what, we always add the 2 where the curve is cutting the x-axis, and then we divide by 2. So when we add, then we divide by 2, the value of x is 1. But they are not asking us the value of x for the turning point. We want the value of y for the turning point, because that is what tells us the maximum or the minimum. So once we have found the value of x for the turning point, you can easily find the value of y for the turning point by replacing in the function for this curve. So we are saying substitute. We are saying substitute 1 in the function, so that you find the value of y for the turning point. That's the maximum or the minimum. So when you substitute, the function is y, x minus 2. So we're going to say y. When you substitute 1 where there is x, 1 where there is x, 1 minus 2, then this will be y is equals to 1, and then brackets 1 minus 2. What you used to say it can't, yeah, but at our level this the answer becomes negative. So 1 minus 2, it's negative 1. Or when you have two numbers and they have different signs, you subtract the smaller number from the bigger number, and the answer should get the sign of a bigger number. Okay, so we're going to have y is equals to 1 times negative 1, we get negative 1. So this is our answer for part 2b. So that's the value of y for the turning point. Okay, so that becomes the end of this, the solutions for 2020 or for 2017. Okay, so let's check the solutions for the 2018 on the same quadratic functions. So the question was this one. So this was the questions. Now this was the question for, so this was the question for 2018 on quadratic functions. Okay, so as you can see there, we are also given so quickly we are going to say the function we have been given. So this is 2018, but still functions. So we have been given the function y equal to 2 plus x minus x square. Okay, in case for easy understanding, we can do a bit of a sketch. Okay, so we have point E, we have G, we have O. Okay, then we have, this is y, this is the x. So we are saying the questions are saying find the, so part A, we want to find the coordinates of E and G. So coordinates of E and G, it's the same as in the question for 2017 that we solved, with simply where the curve we have been given is cutting the x-axis. So remember, we said cutting the x-axis means y when y is equals to 0. So in the function y is equals to 2 plus x minus the x square, what will be the values of x where y is equals to 0? Because that's what it means to cut the x-axis. So where there is y, we replace 0, 2 plus x minus x square. And then next from here, since it is now not simplified like in the previous one, you need to simplify it on your own. Then remember, a quadratic should be written should always be in the form ax square plus bx plus c. Okay, so in this case they have just rearranged it. The one with the power 2, they have put it at the end, the bx is at the middle, the c is the is the first one, which is the 2. So we can write it as 0 can write it as 0 is equals to 2 plus x minus x squared. So this is the same. So this is the same as saying the c plus the bx, and then plus the ax square. So this is the standard way in which we write a quadratic. Okay, so what you simply need to do here is to find what we call the factors. So factors is you need first to find the two numbers that we when you okay. So first of all, you need to know what the product is. What we do is you find the product, you find the sum, and you find the factors. Okay, so product means you multiply the number, you multiply the number that is attached to the variable which has the power 2. So in this case, which has the power 2 is x squared, and then there's no number in front of it, it means there's 1. Then since there's the sign of a negative, the product also we are going to say there's 1 here. Then the negative 1, the product is what you get when you multiply a times c. So the a here is representing negative 1, the c here is representing 2. So when you multiply negative 1 times 2, what do you get? You get negative 2. That becomes your product. So your product is what you get when you multiply a times c. In this case, it's negative 1 times the 2, so it's negative 2. That's a product. The sum you just get the value of b. Okay, in the standard quadratic equation which I've written here, b is the sum. So the one which is representing b is the number that is in front of the x. Since we cannot see a number, it means there is 1 which is positive. So you write 1. Then what are the factors? Factors simply means what are the two numbers which when you multiply, you are going to get negative 2. But when you add them, you are going to get, when you multiply, you get negative 2. But when you add them, we are going to get 1. That is what we want. So this one, it is positive 2 as well as negative 1. These are the factors. So if you try to multiply these two numbers, 2 times negative 1, the answer is negative 2. When you try to multiply them, this times this is giving you negative 2. But when you try to add them, 2 plus negative 1, what you're going to get is the positive 1. So these are the factors. So these factors, what you do is you need to come and replace them in this function. So we're going to have 0 is equals to 2 plus the x minus x squared. So these two factors, we replace them with the middle part, the part for bx, which is the one we replace with the factors. Okay, so what will happen, it will be 0 is equals to 2. So as we replace them, we give them the variable which was here, which is the x. So it will be, since 2 is positive, it will be plus 2x. And then since 1 is negative, we're going to say minus x. And then we write, so we replace only the middle part. So the negative x squared remains. The reason why instead of writing negative 1x, because negative x itself means there's 1 in front. So the same as the plus 2x minus 1x. Okay, so that's what we've written here. Then once you've done that, you divide this into 2. And then you do the factorization. What is common this side? You're going to have 0. So the 0 is just at the end. So when you factorize 0, you're going to find that what is common is 2. So if 2 is common, you say 2 into 2, it's 1. Then you put the sign 2 into 2x. 2 into 2x, the 2 and the 2 they cancel. You're going to remain with the x. Then here you also find what is common. What is it that is common here? The x is actually common. Then since it's carrying negative, so it will be negative x. Okay, so you put outside brackets. So you say negative x into negative x, it's actually positive 1, because this will cancel here 1, 1. So you are dividing this into this, you are getting 1. Dividing this into this, even the sign in between, negative x into negative x squared. So it's the same as saying negative x squared over x over negative, because we are dividing this into this. So the negative and negative cancel. 1x and the x cancels. You remain with plus x here because the negatives have been cancelled. So once you find that what you have inside is the same, it means you are correct. Then you pick 1. Since these are the same, you only pick 1. And then you also make what is outside. You also create another factor. So this, it means you are done with factorizing. So what do you do further? Since you asked to find the values for E and G, you simply equate these factors to 0. So it will be 0 equals 1 plus x, and then 0 equals 2 minus x. So remember, we can say this is the same as 1 plus x equals to 0, and then the other part we can say this is the same as 2 minus x equals to 0. So the x here is equals to, when you take 1 to the other side, it will be minus 1. Okay, and then on the other side again it will be negative x is equals to, when you take 2 to the other side, since it is positive here, it will be negative 2. Okay, so remember, you want to remain with x, not negative x. So here there is no number, it means there is a 1. So for you to remain with the x, you need to divide both sides by negative 1. You cancel, and the x is equals to negative and negative. When they cancel, you get a positive 1 into 2, it's 2. So that becomes the values of x. So our question is saying find the coordinates of E and G. So our final answer, let's write our final answer here. So our final answer, so remember, since they want the coordinates for E, we are going to say E and the G. Okay, so since it's x comma y, what is, where there is E, what's the value of x? So you check between these two, negative 2 and 2, which one makes sense to be E? E is on the negative side of the x-axis, so its value is negative 1. So where there is, so for E, the value of x is negative 1. For y, it is simple. At any point on the x-axis, y is always equal to 0. Then for x, you get here it is on the positive side of the x-axis, so 2 makes sense for G. So the value of x for G is 2. Then the value of y there, at any point on the x-axis, y is 0. So this becomes the coordinate. So that's the solution for part A of the 2019. That is the coordinates of G and E. Then going further to find the maximum value of y, the second question says what's the maximum value of y? Like we solved in the previous, we said the maximum value or minimum value means the y value for the turning point. So that's what we are going to try to solve now. Okay, so the maximum value. So remember, the values of x that we found, were negative 1 and 2. So we said first we need to find the value of x for the turning point. So for part B, we are going to say x is equals to, we found one value for where the curve is cutting the x-axis to be 1, the other one to be 2. So you add them and divide by 2. That's how you find the value of x for the turning point. So this will be x is equals to negative 1 plus 2, it's 1, then over 2. So this is the same as the x. If you want, you can divide further to have 0.5, or you leave it like that. So that's the value of x for the turning point, but maximum or minimum means the value of y for the turning point, not x. So you need now to finally replace or substitute in the function. You need now to finally substitute in the function of the curve to find the value of y for the turning point, because that is what means the maximum or the minimum value. So y is equals to 2 plus, where there is x, we replace the value of x for the turning point, minus 1 over 2 square. Remember, do not use a calculator. This is paper 1 and the calculator is not allowed. Minus, so 1 over 2 square means you square 1 squared is 1, then you square both 1 and the 2 down, so 2 squared is 4. So this gives us a fraction that we can solve by finding the common denominator. So a number that 1, 2 and 4 can go in without leaving a remainder, the lowest is 4. So 1 into 4 is 4, times 2 it's 8, plus 2 into 4 it's 2, times 1 it's 2. Then 4 into 4, it goes there, 1 times the 1, it's negative 1. So we have y is equals to this plus this, it's 10 minus 1 over 4. Then y is equals to 10 minus 1, it's 9 over 4. Then y is equals to 4 into this, it's 2 whole number, remainder 1 over 4. So this becomes the value of y for the turning point, and that is what qualifies to be called the maximum. So this becomes the solutions for the 2018 paper on quadratic functions. So thank you so much for watching, and please remember to like the video and subscribe so that you can be watching other videos as on different topics in mathematics and sciences, as I'll be uploading them nearly every day, or maybe every after 2 or 3 days. Thank you so much, and wishing you all the best in your studies.